At the airport, my son said, "My wife and I are flying first class and you're in cheap economy. You're not on our level." I nodded silently. He didn't know that all the tickets had been bought by me, and on the day of departure I switched them around. Good day, dear listeners. It's Clara again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I raised my son, Michael, alone. His father left when Michael was 3, and I never remarried. Instead, I poured everything into that boy, my time, my energy, my savings. I worked double shifts at the hospital for 15 years, wearing scrubs that smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion, so he could attend a good college. I sold my mother's jewelry to help with his down payment on his first house. When he met Jennifer, a corporate lawyer with expensive tastes and a calculating smile, I told myself I was happy for him. Wasn't that what mothers were supposed to do? The first sign came 6 months after their wedding. I'd invited them for Sunday dinner, my small kitchen filled with the smell of pot roast, Michael's favorite since childhood. Jennifer arrived in a designer dress, her nose wrinkling as she surveyed my modest home. "Michael, honey, we really can't stay long," she said, checking her phone. "We have that charity gala tonight. You know, the one where tickets are $500 a plate." She said it casually, but her eyes found mine when she mentioned the price. Michael barely touched his food. They left after 40 minutes. The second sign was more direct. Thanksgiving dinner at their house, a sprawling suburban home I'd helped finance. Jennifer seated me at the far end of the table, next to her aunt who talked endlessly about her cats. When I tried to join the conversation about Michael's promotion, Jennifer spoke over me. "Michael's success is really a team effort," she announced, her hand on his shoulder. "I've been coaching him on executive presence. He was so unsophisticated when we met." My son, who I'd raised to be kind and strong, said nothing. But the third sign, the one that changed everything, came at the airport 3 months later. I'd planned a family trip to Hawaii, something I'd dreamed about for years. I'd saved for 18 months, cutting every corner, eating rice and beans for dinner more nights than I could count. I wanted to give Michael and Jennifer this gift. I wanted us to be a family again. I'd booked all 3 tickets in economy class initially, but then I used the last of my savings to upgrade their tickets to first class. I wanted them to be comfortable, to enjoy themselves. I'd surprise them at the airport. We met at the terminal, Michael and Jennifer arriving in a town car while I took the shuttle from long-term parking. I was pulling my old rolling suitcase, the same one I'd bought 20 years ago, when Michael spotted me near the check-in counter. "Mom," he said, his voice flat. He glanced at Jennifer, who was typing on her phone, her Louis Vuitton carry-on beside her. "Just so you know, we're flying first class on this trip," Jennifer insisted. "You're in economy, right?" I opened my mouth to tell him about the surprise, but Jennifer looked up, her eyes sweeping over my discount store clothes and worn luggage. "It's better this way," she said, her smile sharp as a blade. "You'll be more comfortable with your kind of people. First class really isn't your scene, is it?" Michael shifted uncomfortably, but didn't disagree. "Mom, don't take it personally. It's just, we're not on the same level anymore. My career, our lifestyle, things are different now." Something cold settled in my chest. Was this my son talking? The boy I'd raised to treat everyone with respect, regardless of their circumstances. "We're not your equals," Jennifer added, her voice saccharine sweet. "You understand, don't you? It would just be awkward, all of us sitting together." I nodded slowly, my throat too tight for words. They didn't know. They didn't know that I held all 3 boarding passes in my purse. That with one simple phone call to the airline, I could change everything. Michael gave me an absent pat on the shoulder and walked toward the first-class check-in with Jennifer, who didn't even look back. I stood there in the middle of the terminal, travelers rushing past me, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd felt that before. This was different. This was clarity. I pulled out my phone and made a call. I sat in a plastic chair near the departure gate, watching Michael and Jennifer disappear into the first-class lounge. They had access, of course. The tickets I'd purchased for them, the ones I'd paid for with money earned from extra shifts and skipped meals, granted them that privilege. My hands trembled as I opened my phone's calculator. 18 months of savings. The numbers glared back at me. $8,400 for the Hawaii trip. The first-class upgrades alone had cost $2,800. I'd worked Christmas Day for double pay to afford those seats. I'd told the hospital supervisor I had no family plans. How many times had I lied to myself? Told myself that Michael was just busy, that Jennifer would warm up to me eventually, that my son still loved me even if he rarely called? I scrolled through my recent calls. The last time Michael had phoned me, actually phoned, not texted, was 7 weeks ago. He'd needed my social security number for some life insurance paperwork. The conversation lasted 3 minutes. My reflection stared back at me from the darkened phone screen when it went to sleep. A 62-year-old woman with gray roots showing through her home dye job and a jacket I'd bought at Walmart. When had I become invisible to my own son? Number, not invisible, inferior. I dialed the airline's customer service number. A cheerful voice answered on the third ring. Hi, yes, I need to make changes to some tickets for Flight 237 to Honolulu. Confirmation number KL94762. The representative pulled up the reservation. I see 3 passengers here. What changes did you need to make? I took a breath. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out steady. I'd like to change the seat assignments. The 2 passengers currently in first class. I need them moved to economy, and I'd like to move from economy to first class. Let me check the availability. Yes, there's 1 first class seat available and 2 economy seats. There will be a change fee. I don't care about the fee. Do it. There was a pause. Ma'am, just to confirm, you're downgrading 2 passengers and upgrading yourself? That's correct. I'm the one who paid for all the tickets. I'm simply rearranging the seating. 5 minutes later, it was done. The new boarding passes arrived in my email. I sat there staring at them, a strange sensation building in my chest. Not quite satisfaction, not yet, but something close to it. What else had I given up for Michael? The house. I'd co-signed on his mortgage because his credit wasn't established enough. My name was on that deed, but when had he last acknowledged it? When Jennifer redecorated last year, spending $40,000 on furniture, had they thanked me for making that house possible? My retirement account. I'd cashed out half of it to pay for Michael's wedding. Jennifer had wanted a destination wedding in the Bahamas. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, Mom, Michael had said. I'd nodded and liquidated my IRA, paying the penalties and taxes. They'd seated me in the back row at the ceremony, behind Jennifer's college roommates, my mother's engagement ring, the only piece of valuable jewelry I'd owned. I'd given it to Michael to propose to Jennifer. She'd had the diamond reset into a new band within a month, calling the original setting dated and provincial. The losses mounted in my mind like an indictment. But what now? Switching the plane seats was one thing, a small, private rebellion. But it wasn't enough, was it? They'd board the plane, discover the change, and what? They'd be angry. Jennifer would make a scene. Michael would call me later, his voice tight with embarrassment, asking what I'd been thinking. Unless I didn't stop there. I opened my laptop bag and pulled out the folder I'd brought for the trip. Inside were documents I'd been organizing for months, bank statements, legal papers, property records. I'd planned to review them during the flight. Maybe start planning my actual retirement now that I'd turned 62. My name was on Michael's house deed. I'd co-signed his car loan 2 years ago, the BMW currently parked at their home. I'd given them $15,000 last year when Jennifer wanted to start her own law practice, money she'd called a family investment. Did I have receipts? Proof. My fingers moved across the laptop keyboard, opening files. Yes. Bank transfers. Emails. Text messages where Michael had promised, "I'll pay you back, Mom, and this is just temporary." A plan began forming, cold and clear as winter ice. The flight to Hawaii was 6 hours. I had 6 hours in first class, in the seat I'd paid for, to make the first call. I waited until we were at cruising altitude. The flight attendant brought me champagne in a real glass, offered me warm nuts, asked if I needed anything. Through the curtain separating first class from economy, I could hear raised voices. Michael and Jennifer discovering their seat assignments. The flight attendant handling the situation had a strained smile. "I'm sorry, but these are the seats assigned to your confirmation numbers. If you'd like to discuss an upgrade, I can check availability after takeoff." I sipped my champagne and opened my laptop. The lawyer's name was Patricia Hendricks. I'd found her 3 weeks ago, during a sleepless night after Jennifer had uninvited me from their anniversary dinner. "Just couples this time, Mom," Michael had said. "You understand." Patricia specialized in family law and financial elder abuse. I'd scheduled a consultation for after the Hawaii trip. But why wait? I used the in-flight Wi-Fi, expensive, but I didn't care anymore, and sent Patricia an email with all the attachments. Bank statements showing the $45,000 I'd given Michael over 5 years. The mortgage documents with my name as co-signer. The loan papers. The receipts from their wedding, their house renovations, Jennifer's business startup. My email was succinct. I need to explore my legal options regarding financial recovery from my son. These funds were meant as loans, not gifts. I have documentation. Can we meet next week? I hit send and felt something loosen in my chest. The curtain rustled. Michael pushed through, his face flushed. He spotted me in seat 2A, the seat he'd expected to occupy, and his mouth fell open. "Mom? What? How?" "Hello, Michael." I kept my voice pleasant. "Are you and Jennifer settled in back there? You switched the tickets." His voice was low, dangerous. "You deliberately humiliated us." "I paid for the tickets," I said calmly. "I decided to sit where I was comfortable. Isn't that what you suggested? That we all sit where we're comfortable?" His jaw clenched. "This isn't funny. Jennifer is furious. Do you know how this looks?" "How does it look, Michael?" "Like you're—" He stopped, glancing at the other first-class passengers who were politely pretending not to listen. "We need to talk about this later." "Yes," I agreed. "We do need to talk about a lot of things." Something in my tone made him pause. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've been doing some accounting. Did you know that over the past 5 years, I've given you $45,000? That's not including the wedding or the mortgage co-signing, just direct transfers." Michael's face went pale. "That was... you offered..." "I offered some of it. You asked for the rest. You said it was temporary. You said you'd pay me back when your investments paid off, when Jennifer's practice got established, when the bonus came through." I pulled out my phone, opened the message history. "Would you like me to read your texts?" "Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver. I'll get this back to you soon." That was 18 months ago. I never saw a dollar. "Are you seriously keeping score?" His voice rose. "I'm your son." "Yes," I said quietly. "You are. And I've spent the last 24 hours asking myself when exactly you forgot that I'm your mother." The flight attendant approached. "Sir, I need to ask you to return to your seat for safety." "This is ridiculous!" Michael hissed at me. We'll talk when we land. But as he turned to leave, I saw it. Fear flickering in his eyes. He understood that something had shifted. That the mother who'd always said yes, who'd always sacrificed, who'd smiled through every slight and dismissal, was gone. An hour later, my phone buzzed with an email response from Patricia Hendricks. I've reviewed your documents. You have a strong case. I can meet Monday at 10 a.m. Bring all original paperwork. We should also discuss the house deed situation. You may have more leverage than you realize. Leverage. Such a cold word, but appropriate. I ordered another glass of champagne and looked out at the clouds below, brilliant white in the sunlight. Somewhere behind that curtain, Michael was probably telling Jennifer about our conversation. Jennifer, who'd called me unsophisticated, who'd said I wasn't their equal. They had no idea what was coming. By the time we landed in Honolulu, I'd drafted a detailed timeline of every loan, every gift, every financial request. I'd screenshotted text messages. I'd created a spreadsheet that would make any lawyer weep with joy. Michael and Jennifer deplaned before me. They rushed off the aircraft the moment they could, avoiding eye contact. I took my time, thanking the flight crew, collecting my things. In the terminal, I saw them waiting near baggage claim, their faces tight with anger. Jennifer's arms were crossed. Michael was on his phone, his jaw clenched. I walked past them toward the car rental counter. I'd booked my own car. Why would I assume we'd share transportation? We weren't on the same level, after all. I spent the first 3 days in Hawaii alone, and they were glorious. I'd booked us all at the same resort, a beachfront property I'd saved 18 months to afford. But I'd reserved separate rooms. Mine had an ocean view. I'd put Michael and Jennifer in a garden view room on the first floor, near the ice machine. Each morning, I had breakfast on my balcony, watching the sunrise paint the waves gold and pink. I went to a luau. I took a snorkeling tour. I read 2 novels I'd been meaning to get to for years. I didn't call Michael. I didn't text. I simply existed without them. My phone rang constantly. Michael, Jennifer, Michael again. I let it go to voicemail. On day 3, they found me at the resort restaurant, having lunch alone with a Mai Tai and a good book. We need to talk. Jennifer stood over my table, her designer sunglasses pushed up on her head. Michael hovered behind her, looking miserable. I'm reading, I said pleasantly. Mom. Michael pulled out a chair uninvited. This has gone far enough. You've made your point. Have I? What point did I make? Jennifer sat down too, her movements sharp with anger. You embarrassed us on the plane. You've ignored us for 3 days. You're acting like a child. I marked my page and set the book down. A child? That's interesting. Tell me, Jennifer, when children take their parents' money and don't pay it back, what do we call that? Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Michael, did you tell your wife that I've loaned you $45,000 over the past 5 years? Not to mention co-signing your mortgage and your car loan? Michael's face flushed. That's between us, Mom. That's private. Is it? Because when I consulted with my lawyer, your lawyer? Jennifer's voice cracked like a whip. You got a lawyer? I met with Patricia Hendricks 2 days ago, over video call. Wonderful technology, don't you think? I sipped my Mai Tai. She confirmed what I suspected. Those loans you never repaid? I have documentation. Text messages where you promised repayment. Bank transfers. Emails. A paper trail that any court would find very compelling. Michael leaned forward, his voice dropping. You can't be serious. You're going to sue your own son? Why not? You treated your own mother like she's beneath you. Jennifer's laugh was harsh. This is what this is about? Your feelings are hurt? No, I said calmly. This is about respect and money. Mostly money, actually. Patricia says I have an excellent case for financial elder abuse. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Elder abuse. A legal term with serious implications. That's insane! Michael's voice rose. Other diners glanced over. You gave us that money willingly. Some of it, yes, as gifts. But you asked for loans, Michael. You promised to pay me back. That makes them loans, not gifts. And when adult children systematically take money from an elderly parent and fail to repay, I shrugged. Well, there are laws about that. Jennifer's face had gone pale. You wouldn't actually take us to court. Why wouldn't I? I met her gaze. You said I'm not your equal. You're right. Equals would respect each other. Equals would keep their promises. What we have here is a debtor-creditor relationship. Stop, Michael said. His hands were shaking. Just stop. What do you want? Finally, the right question. I want $45,000 plus interest. I want my name removed from your mortgage, which means you'll need to refinance on your own credit. I want the car loan paid off or transferred entirely to your name. And I paused, letting it sink in. I want a written apology from both of you for your behavior at the airport and over the past year. You're blackmailing us, Jennifer hissed. I'm collecting a debt, I corrected. You have until we return home to decide. Pay me back voluntarily with an apology, and we can move forward. Refuse, and I file a lawsuit the day we land. Patricia already has the paperwork drafted. Michael looked like I'd struck him. Mom, you can't. I don't have $45,000 just lying around. Then you'll need to figure something out. Sell the BMW. Take a loan. Ask Jennifer's parents for help. I smiled coldly. Do what I did all those years. Sacrifice. Jennifer stood abruptly, her chair scraping. This is extortion. Call it whatever helps you sleep at night. I picked up my book. You have 4 days. Choose wisely. They left, Jennifer's heels clicking furiously on the tile, Michael trailing behind her like a scolded child. I ordered another Mai Tai and returned to my novel, but I couldn't focus. My hands were trembling. Adrenaline and fear coursed through me. Had I really just threatened to sue my own son? Yes, I had, and it felt terrifying and liberating in equal measure. The next morning, there was a knock at my door at 7 a.m. I'd been awake already, drinking coffee on my balcony, watching the ocean. I'd slept poorly, my mind replaying the restaurant confrontation. Part of me felt powerful. Part of me felt like a monster. Was I really going to destroy my relationship with my only child over money? But then I remembered, you're not our equal. You're not my level. I opened the door. Michael stood there alone, without Jennifer. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, his expensive vacation clothes rumpled. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked to the window, staring out at the view he didn't have in his own room. When he spoke, his voice was soft. I'm sorry. 2 words I'd waited years to hear. I said nothing. I'm sorry for what I said at the airport, for how Jennifer treated you, for... He turned to face me, and I saw tears in his eyes. For all of it. You're right. I took you for granted. I let Jennifer influence me, and I forgot who I was, who you are. My throat tightened. This was my son. My baby boy who I'd rocked to sleep, who I'd taught to ride a bike, who I'd sacrificed everything for. We can't pay you back right now, he continued. Not all at once. But what if we set up a payment plan? $1,000 a month with interest. It'll take time, but... Michael, please, Mom, don't sue me. Don't make this public. It'll ruin my career if this gets out. The partners at my firm, they can't know about financial disputes with family. I'll lose my reputation. There it was. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you, but don't embarrass me. Where's Jennifer? I asked. He hesitated. She thinks I'm being weak. She said we should call your bluff, that you'd never actually go through with it. Is that what you think? That I'm bluffing? I don't know anymore. He sat on my bed, his head in his hands. The mom I knew would never do this, would never threaten her own son. The son I knew would never treat his mother like hired help. He flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? I sat across from him. Michael, when was the last time you asked about my life? My health? My happiness? When was the last time you visited me because you wanted to? Not because you needed something. I've been busy. Everyone's busy. That's not an excuse for cruelty. We sat in silence. Outside, I could hear families laughing by the pool. Normal families. Happy families. Mom, he said finally, I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't destroy our relationship over this. And there was the manipulation. Subtle, but unmistakable. He was framing this as my choice, my responsibility. If our relationship ended, it would be because I sued him, not because he'd disrespected and exploited me for years. Our relationship is already destroyed, Michael. You destroyed it when you decided I wasn't your equal. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? He had no answer. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Jennifer. We need to talk. Meet me at the beach bar in 30 minutes. Alone. I showed Michael the text. His face went pale. Don't. She's angry. She might say things I need to hear. Mom, please. I stood up. You should go. I need to get ready. You're really going to meet her? Why wouldn't I? I'm not afraid of your wife, Michael. He left, defeated. I watched him trudge down the hallway, shoulders slumped, and felt a pang of guilt. Then I remembered Jennifer's sneer at the airport, Michael's casual dismissal, the years of feeling invisible. The guilt faded. 30 minutes later, I sat at the outdoor beach bar. Jennifer arrived exactly on time, wearing a white linen dress and oversized sunglasses. She ordered a mimosa without asking if I wanted anything. Let's talk, she said, removing her sunglasses. Her eyes were cold. Woman to woman. All right. You're making a mistake. Suing Michael will accomplish nothing except destroying your family. He's your only child. Are you really willing to lose him forever over money? He was willing to lose me over a plane seat. She waved dismissively. That was thoughtless, not malicious. You're being vindictive. I'm being practical. I'm 62 years old with a depleted retirement account because I gave my money to my son. What happens when I can't work anymore? When I need care? Will Michael help me then? Based on recent evidence, I doubt it. Jennifer leaned forward. What if I told you we'd include you more? Family dinners every month, holidays together. You'd have access to Michael again, a real relationship. Isn't that worth more than money? You're offering to tolerate my presence in exchange for dropping the lawsuit? I'm offering you your son back. I sipped my coffee, let her words hang in the humid air. A month ago, maybe even a week ago, I would have taken this deal. Any scrap of affection, any promise of inclusion, and I would have crumbled. But I'd spent the last 4 days alone, and I'd realized something. I liked my own company. I liked reading without interruption. I liked eating meals without criticism. I liked being myself without apology. No, I said simply. Jennifer's perfect composure cracked. No, I don't want forced family dinners. I don't want reluctant phone calls. I want my money back, that's all. You're a foolish old woman. Her voice turned venomous. You'll end up alone, estranged from your only family, bitter and miserable. I smiled. Maybe. But I'll be alone with $45,000 and my self-respect. That sounds better than being tolerated by people who despise me. Jennifer stood abruptly, her face flushed with rage. You'll regret this. Perhaps, but not as much as I regret raising a son who married you. She left without another word. I finished my coffee and ordered breakfast. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They waited 2 days. 2 days of silence while I snorkeled, read on the beach, and had dinners alone with a view of the sunset. 2 days during which I didn't see them at all, though I knew they were somewhere in the resort, plotting. On our last evening in Hawaii, they came to my room together. It was 8 p.m. I'd just showered and put on my pajamas, planning to pack for our morning flight. The knock was soft, almost apologetic. Michael stood there with Jennifer, both dressed for dinner, somewhere expensive judging by their clothes. Michael held a bottle of wine. "Mom," he said, his voice gentle. "Can we come in? Please? We want to talk. Really talk, no fighting." Against my better judgment, I let them in. Jennifer settled on the small sofa, her posture perfect, her smile warm. It was unnerving, this sudden shift from venom to charm. "We've spent the last 2 days really reflecting," she said. "And you're right. We've treated you horribly." Michael sat beside her, nodding. "I talked to my therapist." "You don't have a therapist," I said. A flash of irritation crossed his face, quickly smoothed away. "I mean, I talked to Jennifer, and she helped me see things clearly. We've been selfish. We've taken you for granted. We want to make it right." "How?" I sat in the armchair across from them, my arms folded. Jennifer leaned forward, earnest and open. "We've come up with a plan. We can't pay you $45,000 right away. That's just not realistic given our mortgage and expenses. But what if we did something better?" "Better than returning money you borrowed?" "We want you to move in with us," Michael said. The words hung in the air like a trap. "Move in?" I repeated. "Think about it," Jennifer said, her voice warm as honey. "You're still working those exhausting hospital shifts. You're living in that small apartment struggling with bills. We have a 4-bedroom house. You could have your own suite. Bathroom, sitting area, everything. You'd save on rent, on utilities. We'd be together as a family," Michael added quickly. "And you could help out a little around the house, maybe cook sometimes like you used to. Jennifer's so busy with the law practice, and I'm working long hours. We need family support." There it was, the truth beneath the pretty words. "So I'd be your live-in maid and cook," I said flatly. "No!" Jennifer looked shocked. "Of course not. You'd be family, living with family. Isn't that better than being alone?" "I'd have my own space," Michael continued. "Complete privacy. And you wouldn't have to worry about retirement anymore. You could quit that job that's killing your back. We'd take care of you." I studied them both. Jennifer's smile never wavered. Michael looked hopeful, almost desperate. "And the money I've loaned you?" I asked. Jennifer waved her hand. "We'd call it even. Think of it as advance payment for room and board. You've already invested in our home. Now you get to enjoy it. Plus," Michael added, "if you lived with us, you'd be around for family dinners, holidays, everything you wanted. We'd be together. Except I'd be the help." "That's not—" Michael's voice rose in frustration. "Why do you keep twisting our words?" "Am I?" I stood up, walking to the window. Below, couples strolled on the beach, holding hands. "Let me see if I understand. I move into your house, the house I co-signed for. I cook and clean because you're both too busy. I give up my independence, my home, my privacy. And in exchange, you keep my $45,000 and I get to be grateful for your charity." "We're offering you a home." Jennifer's mask slipped, her voice sharp. Do you know how many elderly people would kill for this opportunity? To be taken care of by family? Taken care of or taken advantage of? Michael stood abruptly. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Jennifer. She doesn't want to reconcile. She just wants to punish us. Punish you? My voice remained calm, but I felt fury building in my chest. Michael, I worked double shifts to put you through college. I sold my mother's jewelry for your wedding. I gave you every dollar I could spare, and you repaid me with contempt. Now you want me to cook your meals and clean your house and pretend it's love? We're trying to make things right, he shouted. No, you're trying to avoid consequences. There's a difference. Jennifer stood too, her composure shattered. You know what? Michael was right about you. You've always been manipulative, always playing the martyr, always guilt-tripping him about your sacrifices. Jennifer, Michael looked panicked, but she wasn't done. You want to know the truth? Michael doesn't even like you. He feels obligated to you, trapped by you. Every time he does something for you, he resents it. Every call, every visit. It's duty, not love. The words landed like physical blows. Michael went white. Jennifer, stop. Why? She needs to hear it. You've been smothering him his whole life. The hovering, the sacrificing, the constant reminders of everything you've done for him. It's suffocating. He married me to get away from you. Silence filled the room. Michael looked at me, his mouth opening, closing. Mom, that's not, she doesn't mean, but he didn't deny it. Get out, I said quietly. Mom, get out. They left. Jennifer walked out first, her head high. Michael lingered in the doorway, looking back at me with something that might have been regret, or might have been relief. When the door closed, I sat on the bed, my whole body shaking. Not with tears, with rage. Jennifer was right about one thing. I had sacrificed everything for Michael. But she was wrong about why. I hadn't done it to control him, or guilt him, or trap him. I'd done it because I loved him, and he'd repaid that love by despising me for it. I picked up my phone and texted Patricia Hendricks, "File the lawsuit. I want it served the day we land." Her response came within minutes. Understood. Paperwork ready. Welcome to your new chapter. I slept better that night than I had in years. The lawsuit was served 3 days after we returned home. Michael called me 17 times that day. I answered on the 18th call. How could you do this? His voice was raw, desperate. It's public record now, Mom. Public. My colleagues can see it. My boss, anyone can look it up. Yes, I said calmly. That's how lawsuits work. You're destroying my career. Do you understand that? The partners are already asking questions. There's gossip everywhere. Michael Brennan is being sued by his own mother for financial elder abuse. Do you know how that sounds? Like the truth. It's not... He stopped, breathing hard. We need to settle. Right now. Before this goes any further. I'm listening. We'll pay you back. $10,000 immediately, then payment plans for the rest. Monthly installments, whatever you want. Just drop the suit. I'd been expecting this. Patricia had predicted it. No lawsuits end when people can actually read the complaints, she'd said. The details matter. $10,000 is less than a quarter of what you owe me, I said. It's what we have, liquid. Mom, please? Should have thought of that before you spent my money on BMWs and designer furniture. You're enjoying this, he said, his voice breaking. You're enjoying watching us suffer. Was I? I examined my feelings honestly. No, not enjoyment. But satisfaction? Yes. The satisfaction of finally being heard. I'm enjoying being taken seriously, I said. It's a new experience. He hung up. 2 days later, I received a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. a man's voice, professional and cold. Mrs. Brennan, this is Thomas Cartwright, managing partner at Cartwright and Associates. Your son Michael works for our firm. My stomach clenched. Yes? I'm calling to discuss a delicate matter. This lawsuit. It's created an unfortunate situation. Our firm represents high net worth clients who expect discretion and stability from their advisors. Having an associate embroiled in a family lawsuit alleging financial abuse, it reflects poorly on the firm's judgment. Mr. Cartwright, with respect, that's between you and your employee. Indeed. But I'm calling to offer a solution. Our firm would be willing to facilitate a settlement. We'd cover a portion of the debt, say $20,000, if you agree to drop the suit and sign a non-disclosure agreement. You want to pay me to protect Michael's reputation. I want to resolve an issue that's damaging to all parties involved. No, I said. A pause. Mrs. Brennan, I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. You're offering me hush money because my son's behavior is embarrassing to your company. But $20,000 doesn't cover what I'm owed, and a non-disclosure agreement means I can never speak about how my son treated me. That's worth more than any settlement you can offer. You're making a mistake. That seems to be a common opinion. Good day, Mr. Cartwright. I hung up and immediately called Patricia. Michael's firm just tried to settle. Of course they did. She sounded amused. Which means we're winning. They wouldn't offer money if they thought you'd back down. The deposition was scheduled for the following week. Patricia had prepared me. They'll try to paint you as vindictive, spiteful, a bad mother seeking revenge. Stay calm. Stick to facts. Let the documents speak for themselves. On the day of the deposition, I arrived at the law office downtown wearing my best suit. 15 years old, but clean and pressed. Michael and Jennifer were already there with their lawyer, a sharp-faced woman named Diane, who looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. We sat in a conference room, a court reporter in the corner. Patricia beside me, her presence solid and reassuring. Diane started aggressively. Mrs. Brennan, isn't it true that you've always been controlling of your son? No. You've never tried to manipulate him through guilt? Asking someone to repay a loan isn't manipulation. But you gave these gifts freely, didn't you? No written contracts, no formal loan agreements. Patricia slid a folder across the table. Actually, we have text messages in which Michael explicitly refers to these transfers as loans and promises repayment. Dates, amounts, specific language. All documented. Diane's confidence flickered. We also have, Patricia continued, bank statements showing Mrs. Brennan worked overtime shifts and donated plasma to raise these funds. At age 62, she was selling her blood to help her son buy luxury cars. I think any jury will find that compelling. Michael flinched. I didn't know about the plasma. Why would you? I asked quietly. You never asked where the money came from. You just took it. Mrs. Brennan, Diane tried again, isn't it true that you recently attempted to extort your son? Threatened him during a family vacation? I informed him I would pursue legal remedies to recover my money. That's not extortion. That's a warning. You changed his plane tickets to humiliate him. I changed plane tickets I purchased to seat myself in first class. I paid for all 3 tickets. I can arrange them however I choose. Patricia smiled. Are you really arguing that a woman can't choose her own seat on a plane she paid for? The deposition continued for 2 hours. Every question, Diane tried to paint me as unreasonable, vengeful, bitter. Every answer, I remained calm, factual, cold. When Diane asked, "Don't you love your son?" I paused. I used to, I said finally. I used to love him more than anything. Now I'm not sure what I feel. Michael made a sound like a wounded animal. But love doesn't mean letting someone abuse you financially. Love doesn't mean accepting disrespect. If Michael loved me, he would never have treated me the way he did. After the deposition, in the hallway, Michael caught my arm. "Mom, please. We can still fix this." I looked at his hand on my arm, then at his face. "There's nothing to fix, Michael. You made your choices. Now live with them." Jennifer appeared, pulling him away. "Don't beg her," she hissed. "She's not worth it." I walked out of the building into bright sunshine, Patricia beside me. "That went well," she said. "Did it?" "Very. Their lawyer knows they're in trouble. I expect a settlement offer within 48 hours. She was right. The next day, Michael's lawyer called with a new offer. $45,000, paid in full within 30 days, plus removal of my name from all co-signed loans. Everything I'd asked for. Everything I was owed. "Do you want to accept?" Patricia asked. I thought about it. Thought about Michael's face at the deposition, the fear and anger and shame. Thought about Jennifer's venom. Thought about all the years I'd spent making myself small so they could feel big. "Yes," I said, "but I want one more thing." "What's that?" "A written apology, from both of them, admitting what they did and how they treated me. On record." Patricia laughed. "They'll never agree to that." "Then we go to trial." 2 days later, I received 2 letters. Handwritten. Michael's was 3 pages long, rambling and full of excuses, but containing the words, "I'm sorry for how I treated you. You deserved better." Jennifer's was shorter, stiffer. "I apologize for my behavior during the Hawaii trip and for any disrespect shown. It wasn't much, but it was acknowledgement. It was proof. I accepted the settlement." The check arrived via courier on a Tuesday morning. $45,000. Certified. Cleared. I deposited it into a new bank account I'd opened specifically for this purpose. An account with only my name on it. An account no one else could access, co-sign, or guilt me into draining. Patricia called that afternoon. The mortgage company confirmed, "Your name's been removed from Michael's deed. He refinanced at a higher interest rate because his credit wasn't as good as he thought. The car loan's been transferred entirely to his name, too." "What about his job?" She paused. "I shouldn't tell you this, but my paralegal has a friend at his firm. Michael wasn't fired, but he was passed over for partner. The lawsuit created too much scrutiny. Apparently, when the managing partner looked deeper, they found some irregularities in how Michael had been handling client expenses. Nothing criminal, but ethically questionable. So he's stuck as an associate. For the foreseeable future, yes." I felt a cold satisfaction at that. Not joy, I wasn't cruel enough for joy, but justice. The feeling that actions had consequences. 2 weeks later, I ran into Michael's colleague at the grocery store. She recognized me. We'd met once at a company event years ago. "Mrs. Brennan," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "I heard about everything." I braced for judgment. "Good for you," she said quietly. "My mother went through something similar with my brother. She never stood up for herself. I'm glad you did. That's when it started. The unexpected support. Other people, mostly women, who'd experienced similar situations. Adult children who'd exploited their parents' love and generosity. Mothers who'd been taken for granted, dismissed, reduced to ATMs and domestic labor. I received emails through Patricia's office, letters forwarded from the court. Thank you for fighting back. You gave me courage. I'm consulting a lawyer, too. I'd become an accidental symbol, but I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted my life back. I used the settlement money carefully. First, I replenished my retirement account, not all of it, but a good portion. Then I paid off my credit cards, which I'd maxed out during the years of helping Michael. Then I did something purely for myself. I booked a 2-week trip to Italy, alone, first class. First, before I left, I received one more communication from Michael, an email. Mom, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to tell you something. Jennifer and I are separating. After the lawsuit, after everything that came out, I started seeing things differently. The way she talked about you, about other people, her priorities. I realized you were right about a lot of things. This doesn't excuse what I did, but I wanted you to know. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy. Trying to figure out how I became someone who could treat his own mother that way. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know I'm trying. Michael. I read it 3 times. Looked for manipulation, for hidden requests. Found only exhaustion and maybe, possibly, the beginning of self-awareness. I didn't respond. A month later, a mutual acquaintance told me Jennifer had moved out of the house. She'd taken a position at a firm in another state. Just packed up and left, the acquaintance said. Michael's living alone in that big house now. The house I'd helped him buy. The house that was now entirely his burden to maintain. I thought about him there alone and felt nothing. Not pity. Not satisfaction. Just a clean, blank space where motherly worry used to live. When I left for Italy, I put my phone on airplane mode and didn't check it for 2 weeks. I walked through Florence, ate pasta in small trattorias, stood in front of Michelangelo's David, and cried. Not from sadness, but from the pure relief of beauty. On my last night in Rome, sitting at a cafe watching the sunset over the Colosseum, I received a message through the hotel Wi-Fi. From Patricia. Thought you'd want to know. Michael's house is listed for sale. He's downsizing to an apartment. Jennifer filed for divorce and is demanding half of everything, including his retirement accounts. His firm cut his salary by 15% due to performance issues. On the bright side, none of this is your problem anymore. Enjoy Rome. P. I ordered the most expensive wine on the menu and toasted to myself. Michael had built a life on debt, financial and moral. Now, he was paying for both. Not because I'd destroyed him, but because the foundation had always been weak. I'd just been the one who stopped holding it up. The house sold within 2 months. At a loss, I heard later. The market had shifted, and Michael needed to sell quickly to split assets with Jennifer. He moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in a complex near the highway. His BMW was repossessed. Apparently, he'd missed 3 payments during the divorce proceedings. Everything he'd bought with borrowed money, borrowed status, was gone. I felt nothing but relief that none of it was my concern anymore. My retirement account was rebuilding. My apartment was small, but mine. My job at the hospital was still exhausting, but I'd cut back to part-time, using my settlement money to bridge the gap. And Michael? Michael was learning what I'd always known. That real security doesn't come from impressing people or maintaining appearances. It comes from living within your means and treating people with dignity. He was learning it the hard way, but he was learning it alone. And I was finally, blessedly free. 6 months after the settlement, I quit my hospital job. Not impulsively, I'd planned it carefully, run the numbers a dozen times. But at 62, with a rebuilt retirement account and no one to support but myself, I could finally afford to stop destroying my back on double shifts. I got a part-time job at a bookstore. It paid a quarter of what I'd made at the hospital, but I spent my days surrounded by books and people who wanted to talk about stories instead of bedpans. The owner, Helen, who was 70 and sharp as a tack, said, "You look like someone who needs a fresh start. Is it that obvious? Honey, I know someone running from something versus running toward something. You're doing both." She was right. I joined a book club and started Italian lessons at the community college. I volunteered at a women's shelter on weekends, helping older women navigate legal systems and financial independence. "My daughter says I'm being selfish," one woman told me, crying. "She says family forgives." You're not selfish, I told her. You're surviving. I gave her Patricia Hendrick's number. My apartment was small, but I decorated it exactly how I wanted. Bookshelves floor to ceiling, a reading chair by the window, plants everywhere. I adopted a cranky orange tabby named Marmalade, who'd been at the shelter for 2 years. He bites, the worker warned. So do I when necessary. I made real friends. Helen's poetry group met monthly. We read terrible verses, drank wine, and laughed. Sandra, also estranged from her son, understood. Do you miss him? I asked. I miss who I thought he was. But that person never existed. I invented the grateful son in my head. Reality was different. Yes, I said, exactly that. Meanwhile, through bookstore gossip, I heard about Michael. The divorce from Jennifer had been brutal. She'd gotten half of everything. He'd sold the house at a loss and moved into an apartment in a rough neighborhood. His repossessed car meant he took the bus to work now. He'd been let go from his firm. Restructuring, officially. Everyone knew the partners didn't trust him anymore. He'd found work at a smaller firm, making half his previous salary. Jennifer remarried within a year, a senior partner at her new firm, mansion in the suburbs, perfect life on social media. She'd moved on without a backward glance. Michael sent emails every few months, never asking for anything, just updates. I'm in therapy. I understand now what I did to you. I never responded. Not from cruelty, but self-preservation. I couldn't afford hope anymore. Helen asked one day, will you ever forgive him? I don't know. Forgiveness feels like saying what he did was okay, and it wasn't. Forgiveness means you're not carrying it anymore. Maybe, but I'm not there yet. I traveled more. Weekend trips, a cruise to Alaska, another visit to Italy. I learned my own company was better than being with people who made me feel small. On my 63rd birthday, I had dinner alone at an expensive restaurant. Tasting menu, wine pairing, no apologies. The waiter asked, celebrating? Yes, I said. My independence. Walking home that night, I realized I was genuinely happy. Not performance. Real contentment. I had enough money. Friends who valued me. Work that didn't break my body. A cat, books, wine, plants, poetry. Everything I needed. And Michael? Michael had everything he'd earned. Still in that apartment. Still at the smaller firm. Still alone. Jennifer had blocked him. His friends had moved on. He'd built his life on money and status, and when those evaporated, nothing remained. Part of me felt sorry for him, but the rest remembered standing in that airport terminal, hearing my son tell me I wasn't his equal. And I felt nothing but grateful I'd finally believed him. If you're listening to this and you see yourself in my story, whether you're the parent being taken advantage of or the child who's stopped seeing your parents as human beings, ask yourself, what would you do? Would you stand up for yourself even if it meant losing the relationship? Or would you keep sacrificing, hoping things would change? I can't answer that for you. But I sleep better now than I have in years. Leave a comment. Would you have sued your own child? Subscribe for more stories about choosing yourself. Remember, you're never too old to reclaim your dignity. Thank you for listening.